Now, with purchasing, because we are in finally a bit of a more balanced, even towards a buyer's market currently, right? Which is what I've been touching on for most of the show. Is there any good negotiation tips? Because before the sellers were just, I want this and whatever. Do whatever I say. But now they got to negotiate. Are there any good tips for somebody purchasing to use for a negotiation other than just price? Because obviously if you pay the asking, they'll take it.
100%. So, we're talking condos. Condos are kind of the slowest market right now. A lot of them are sitting empty.
Yeah.
So if you can come in with quick dates, that's...
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
That's a really, really good negotiating tool, right? Sellers are paying carrying costs.
Yep.
Right? And so the quicker that they can get this deal done and dusted, the better.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bamboo, Vancouver's property management and investment podcast. This week, I have Liz from the Zada Group and Stonehouse to come in and kind of tell us what's going on in real estate in Vancouver right now. So, yeah, you've been at this for a few years now, right?
Coming up on, we'll call it 4.5 years, give or take. I got licensed just before COVID.
What a great time.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I wrote my exam in January. In March, the world shut down.
Awesome.
So I took obviously didn't dive in because I was new.
There's nowhere to dive.
There's nowhere to dive, right? So put it off for about a year and then got to work.
Yeah, and you're a second gen realtor, yeah?
I am. Yeah. My dad has been in real estate for as long as he's retired now, but was in real estate for as long as I can remember. Yeah. I actually moved to Mexico at one point when I was living there, and I helped him. That's actually how I got into real estate originally. He had a website that he was just pulling off listings from locally in Mexico. And he started getting a bunch of phone calls, and he was referring them out and just collecting referral fees.
And nothing wrong with that.
Right? And then one day he called me and he's like, listen, this is what I got going on.
Yeah.
It's silly that I'm sending out these referrals to other people and not really making more than the referral fee.
Yeah.
Why don't I send you the people? You start to tour them around. If and when, we get to the point where we want to make a deal, I'll do all the paperwork. And we'll split the money.
Seems reasonable to me.
So in Mexico, you can kind of, at that time, this was about 15 years ago now, no longer. But at that time, you could kind of invent yourself if you wanted to and be whoever you wanted to be. And it was acceptable. I believe the rules have changed a little bit. We actually ended up hiring an assistant, then got a brick and mortar, brought on more agents, and the brokerage is still running and very successful today, but my dad has sold it off and is now just collecting royalties and is retired and enjoying his life.
Drinking the chi-chis and whatnot?
Absolutely. Yeah.
the dream, you say.
The dream, yes.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool, sort of way to come up through it all. I'm a third generation, but not as fancy as Mexico, just grinding their ass out in Vancouver. Third generation. My grandma was, my mom, and now me. So
love it. It's a good family biz.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I avoided it for as long as I could, but
so did I.
You always get roped in.
So did I.
So of course we have to ask the most common question because it's early in September and they're going to talk about the rates later on this month. What do you figure? Down, up, even?
You know what? I think that due to the inflationary activity right now, I think that we'll see a drop.
You think a drop?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll see a drop.
I'm thinking even still because I find that the banks are kind of sketchy.
A little bit sketchy. Yeah. We'll see what happens on the 17th.
So remember, if it's wrong, email Liz. If
yes,
it's right,
please do.
Email me. So now, with the market lately, I don't know about you, but I've been noticing kind of an uptick both on the sales side and the rental side. It just sort of seems like people are like, this is what the rate is. They've been waiting for it for most of the year.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like they're just like, okay.
Yeah. It's time to make a move.
Yeah.
I definitely see, we have a few online lead platforms, definitely a lot more coming in there.
Yeah.
Open houses feel like they're picking up and getting a little bit busier. I think that, listings, we had ton of listings on the team. Most of them are all under contract, if not gone now after months of sitting and price reductions. So I definitely feel like things may be taking a bit of a turn and we might see a stronger fall.
Busier fall. Which is typical because, spring,
it's normal anyways, but
So now that being said though, like as far as product itself, like I've been noticing that it's been picking up more on the houses and townhomes, but condos are still a hella grind. Are you
100%.
seeing the same sort of thing?
100%. All our listings that have sold are under contract, or all the townhouses in detached.
Exactly.
The condos are still a struggle. And I have a couple that are priced, really sharp. And they're getting showings, but they're just not moving.
Exactly. So I think that it eventually start to catch on. Once the media catches on, then everyone else will start moving, right?
Absolutely.
They're usually a little bit slow.
It's silly though, because you talk to so many people and you tell them that there's opportunity out there right now. And for whatever reason, it's that group mentality where unless everybody else is doing it, I don't want to do it either.
Absolutely.
And then everybody starts doing it and then they miss the mark, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, come on guys, like the time is now, you know?
Which is actually pretty funny because some of the first-time buyers are starting to move, which is interesting because they're generally looking for the same thing that investors are looking for.
Absolutely.
Like they want low price, entry level, near SkyTrain usually, or having a good pool. We'll get into all of that today, of course. but it's just interesting that group mentality. They don't want to take advantage. And the best comments you always get is, "Oh, I'm going to wait till the market improves." It's like, that means goes up, dude.
Exactly. That's not the time. Like the time is now.
You want to move in a horrible market. That's what you want.
If you want to get into multiple offer scenarios and compete against each other and
then
pay more. Good idea.
So I guess that sort of leads in nicely to what are some of the common mistakes that you see for the do-it-yourself landlord investors when they're buying their initial rental properties? Have you seen anything that like really sticks out and you're kind of like, you may not want to do that?
Good question. It may take me a minute to think about the answer to that one, Haze.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, one of the ones that I always saw was people were trying to buy into the trailer parks or mobile homes, although they're not very mobile, but trying to buy into that. And it's like, a lot of times they can't, for one, and also the rental market for that is not strong. As well as fair. It doesn't go up in price much. Like the rental market is a lot of long game, not what you see on HGTV, right?
Fair.
Buy it and make mad dollars.
Well, and I also get a lot of people that don't own their own property to begin with and ask about pre-sales. Right? Like because they don't have a big down payment, which is a good option for some people, but especially in a market like this, we don't know what it's going to look like in 3 or 4 years when your product is finished and ready. Prices are still, let's not kid ourselves, they're still quite inflated.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Well, that and the fact that people are taking in their pre-sales that they did purchase and
not being able to
close to underwater.
Exactly. So, that would be one of the things, young people or even older people that, think that this might be a way to get in and just rent it out to somebody and not realizing the expense and the cost that comes down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're dealing with taxes on top of that, right? Like it is some heavy stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we're seeing that even with the new rules that they brought in, the anti-flipping. That just came out of left field and just pow. And now all of a sudden a bunch of people are forced to be landlords, which we've noticed an uptick in that on the rental side.
I bet.
All of a sudden, like, if I sell this, there's a year's worth of extra tax coming on here.
Yeah, crazy.
Or maybe hold on to it for a year. So that's what we're going to see. We're also going to find out, I think, a little bit interesting because this was forced and the taxes gradually drop down. So I'm willing to bet you that in 2 years, we're going to see a lot of properties come on the market because they don't want to be a landlord. They just have to be right now.
I agree.
So, this is kind of a couple things DIYs there. Now, I'd asked you prior if somebody had money to invest in Greater Vancouver for an investment, any sort of secret stashes that you know about or ones that maybe check out here instead of here?
Honestly, it's sounds funny and it's a little bit far away, but I'm a really big fan of Chilliwack right now.
Okay.
They've completely revitalized their downtown core. Yes. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I've seen the one.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's reminiscent of Whistler There's little boutiques, cool little eateries, cool little stores, and it's just drawing people in.
Yeah.
They've also, done a lot of commercial infill in the Vetter Road area. Their population has grown about 100,000 people in the past 4 years.
That's a couple.
It's a couple, right? But the prices are still affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, a detached home is around 900,000. A condo is around 4.
Yeah.
Right. So, for investment, you pick up a condo out there if you want to be a DIY landlord and potentially be, at least break even, if not cash positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I know it's a bit of a commute if you work in the Lower Mainland, but with more and more people working from home, I think Chilliwack's a really smart investment right now. I think down the road, it has more opportunity for growth in equity than, somewhere in the GVR area or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, basically move east.
Yeah.
Like Mission has been getting some pretty good stuff out there as well, which it's a long way. It's
a mission to get there.
I mean, I've been looking at things out there as far as investment stuff. That makes sense to go more east for sure. And now you had touched in on cash flowing and that. How do you help investors identify where it would be better? Obviously, you just in on the price of the actual home itself.
Absolutely.
Are there any other markers that you sort of look for as somebody's like thinking about making an investment? Say like, oh, maybe that one or not that one because of X. Is there anything that sticks out?
Well, definitely you want, more than one bedroom, right? Yeah. For resale down the road. A 2 and 2 is ideal if you're looking at the condo route. If you're looking at a detached, ideally, a suite, right, would help. And then obviously your cash, what's your down payment? What does your mortgage look like? Can you afford the taxes?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to sit down and break down the numbers and see if it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, are there 3 or any number actually, if you have more, then go ahead. But are there any major red flags that absolutely should not be ignored by an investor? Like if you see it, just no.
Probably. Now I feel like I'm put on the spot. Yeah. What are they, Haze?
Well, I mean, there are some. I mean, I originally remember when they used to have like the rental restrictions, which was
right. Yeah.
That was actually, I think, one of the best moves. A lot of people get pissed off about that, but I think, we needed more rentals.
Yeah.
We already have buildings.
Agreed.
Use the ones that we have.
Well, not to mention, if an owner, if their life changes, right? If their life situation changes, maybe you're gotten transferred for a job or something, and you don't necessarily want to sell your home.
Yeah.
Right? Now you have the opportunity to rent it. Whereas before, if you were in a rental restricted building, that wasn't possible.
Yeah. And what if you want to go to Mexico and start a real estate business?
100%, right? Yeah. Or take a year work and go travel.
Yeah.
Right. And still know that you have a home to come back to when you're done.
Yeah.
It's opened up those opportunities as well, which I think is really important.
And I think that a lot of people have built up in their head that tenants are all these like young bucks who are causing a ruckus, banging up the place and partying and all that stuff. But I've noticed a fair amount of even like baby boomers who have that 5-6 bedroom home worth, 1 point whatever. And they just done. They don't want to be mowing lawns anymore. They don't want to be having to fix whatever goes down. Whereas if your fridge breaks down, you call the landlord, like, come fix my fridge. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So I see that now because you specialize more in the purchase side. Do you notice over the time since this has been around for a while, are the hallways getting banged up more? Like, is it as bad as people thought it was going to be? Or
I mean, there's always going to be bad apples in the bunch,
of course,
right? But I think as a whole, no. I mean, there are definitely horror stories out there, but I think, in general, people just want a place to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, if you get a good tenant, you can find a good tenant, you have fair rent, and they pay on time, they're gonna appreciate and look after the space that you've shared with them.
I fully agree. Like, I just feel that people have built up in their head that tenants are evil, and it's like that is not how this works.
No, definitely not.
And so it's very interesting just to see these sort of I guess the split between that, and it's one of these things that we see all the time. Look on the internet, any comment section. Don't have anything to do with rentals, and it's always F you landlord or F you tenant, and it doesn't need to be that way,
no,
at all. And in fact, I think that we mostly only hear about the horror stories. Like, you only hear about planes that crash.
Exactly. Well, it's like anything, right? What do they say? It takes years to gain a customer and 1 minute to lose one.
Absolutely.
Right? And so people are more inclined to complain about something than they are to praise something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why the internet is full of negativity.
Yeah, the rage.
And we should all get away from it.
Absolutely. Like, even looking now at they've just released what the rent increase is for this year, or for next year, sorry, is at 2.3%.
Yeah.
And I can see on both sides of the coin. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of tenants are upset still at that, even though it's less than it has been for the past couple of years. And saying, it's because everything's so expensive. It's too expensive for them. But seeming to forget that the landlords are in the same market.
Exactly.
So,
interest rates, are higher.
Exactly.
The cost of everything is higher. So,
yeah.
I agree. I see it from both sides. Yeah. But I think, I think it's fair for the rents I think it's good we have a cap.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think it's fair that landlords are able to increase the rent. And a lot of landlords don't.
Yep, a lot of them don't.
A lot of them don't.
And even some, like, I ended up for my own rental, didn't for many years, but unfortunately, once the interest rates went up, I was way behind.
Hands are tied.
So I do understand people who do it every year because things like this happen.
Exactly.
Right? But that being said, of course, as I mentioned earlier in the show, it is a longer game. So if you can weather that storm, so be it, right?
100%. Yeah.
I guess since we're on the conversation of rent increases, there has been some pushes from like the tenants union and stuff like this to have full-on restriction and not be able to raise the rent between tenants.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Again, I don't know that that's necessary. I don't know. That's a tough one, right? Because the rents are outrageous. But as we just spoke about, so is the cost of carrying a property.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22, you
Absolutely.
know? If, for instance, if somebody's been in their unit, condo, home, whatever, for 15 years, and they're paying,
peanuts.
Peanuts, exactly. They're paying the rates from 15 years ago with the minor increases maybe over the years. Yeah. By the time, they move out and that product comes back to market, is it realistic to say that, well, let's call it a detached, right? Somebody's paying $2,000 a month for a whole detached home today. And, they move out and market is around 4,000.
Yeah.
That's half.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair to the landlord?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I also think that it runs the risk of ending up with sort of a project sort of thing. Like, you've heard about rent control in New York, for instance, and it doesn't really work because if the max that I'm going to get is X, why would I improve anything?
Absolutely.
Who cares?
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think it results, it's a good idea on paper. Oh, the rents won't go up, but it's a bad idea in the long run because things are going to break down. They're going to put the cheapest piece of junk that they can find in there to replace whatever, or just not replace it.
Just not maintain it.
Because what's the point? You can't get ahead at that point in time. There's no point to updating the place.
100%. It's funny you mentioned New York. I can't remember what I was listening to. I was listening to something and they were talking about the rent control in New York. Yeah. And I haven't fact checked this, so I don't know if it's true. Yeah. But some of the most wealthy, most famous people have some of the most prime property in the downtown, like in the east side and stuff that they're renting. And their monthly rent is like $2,000 a month because they've owned it. They've had it and they're like huge, condos and, 2,000 square foot condos and stuff in downtown New York for like $2,000 a month. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So there's both sides of it, but I ultimately don't think that rent control is a good idea.
No.
Is what it basically comes down to. And it's unfortunate. There's no silver bullet to fix this. It almost seems right now like the housing crisis is almost looking more like an affordability crisis instead.
100%.
Because as we just talked about, there's a whole gang of condos for sale.
Yep.
nobody can afford them.
And a lot of them are sitting empty.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I agree. I don't know that it's for lack of product.
Yeah.
I think it's for lack of funds to pay for the product.
Yeah. Which unfortunately, that's the thing is to fix this whole housing and rental crisis. I think that there's not one thing. We need to do a whole bunch of things all at the same time. And it's going to be some give and take.
100%.
And it's tough because in our current climate, it seems like people don't want to work together.
100%. And you can never please everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you tank the market and all the homeowners are obviously not going to be very happy,
exactly.
right? Renters or people that can now get into the market will be happy. But what about, you've left a whole half of the population behind and kind of screwed their retirement or their future, because as we know, that's what, people invest in real estate these days, planning for their retirement. It's kind of their nest egg.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing too is that one of the parts, you run into people at house parties and pubs and whatnot all the time. Oh, I hope the market crashes. It's like, well, if the market crashes, that means probably a lot of people are unemployed, which means you're not going to be able to buy it anyways because you won't have a job.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
Like all of this stuff, like you may want the mountain to fall down, but it's going to fall down onto somebody.
Definitely. Yeah, there's so many variables, right? It's not an easy fix for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, we definitely won't be able to figure that one out today. So you work with a lot of purchases of all shapes and styles and all that sort of thing. What is a recent deal that you helped an investor with that had some issues that popped up, and how did you solve them? Even in real estate in general.
Yeah, because I was going to say, to be completely honest, there aren't really any investors out there right now. So I don't have any recent deals with any investors per se.
Yeah.
I was, I currently working on a deal with an American citizen. Well, he's got dual citizenship.
Yeah.
And he is, I don't want to say fleeing the States because that sounds quite dramatic, but he's chosen to leave the United States due to the political climate there.
What do you mean?
Something about an orange guy.
Ah.
Yeah. And so he's opted to move himself and his son up here to Canada. Mm-hmm. And bump in the road that we hit was, because he's never lived here, he doesn't have credit in the country.
That would be a problem.
Right? He didn't have to deal with foreign buyer stuff because he does have dual citizenship.
That makes sense.
But, just trying to figure out how to get him, because he makes really great money, but just trying to figure out how to get creative with the mortgage broker and figure out his financing has been
tricky.
a learning curve and enlightening. And we're pretty much there, but we've had to collapse a deal due to it because we couldn't
get those final
couldn't get it all dealt with in time. Yeah.
That's something that a lot of people don't even think about, like from moving about, is the credit thing is a huge thing.
Huge.
And especially because, let's face it, when we were younger, most of us did dumb things with our credit.
Yeah. Come on, Haze, I didn't.
Right? Never, right? Because if you think about it on the credit cards especially, like, you get into university, like, here, have a credit card.
Yeah,
like,
you get your first credit card, you're like, this is free money. And a month later, it's racked up to the nines, and then you realize you got to pay it back.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden everyone's hooped, right? So, like, I can understand that with the credit is a major thing, especially with the mortgages. Like, have you ever come across any buyers who do any like the really dumb stuff where they get pre-approved for mortgage and then go buy
a car?
Yeah,
I definitely have.
Boat in one case.
Sorry, we're done.
Yeah,
your dreams of buying a home are over for now.
Yeah, so you gotta remember, once you get your pre-approval, don't
buy anything big. Yeah, you can buy it after.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
That's totally fine. Get it after, but not before.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, now we had talked about like the locations. You were saying that out towards Chilliwack is some good deals out there to be had. With the rents being so high in Vancouver, or well, generally greater Vancouver, do you think the location still matters as much for, even if it's not as a rental investment, but just as purchasing a home, because you want to build your own equity? Mm-hmm. It's always been location.
100%.
But do you think it still holds?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about Chilliwack earlier. I'm a big fan also of Port Moody. Okay, so let's bring us back to, the GVR Tri-Cities area. Port Moody's very niche, right? It's kind of boutique, it's boutique-esque. So yeah, the prices aren't very volatile there. Even when we see the market dip, Port Moody doesn't dip quite as much as everywhere else.
Absolutely.
The price point's a little bit higher, but I think there's more stability in the market there.
Yeah.
And you can still, get the higher rents and you're going to pay the higher price. But again, if the numbers make sense and you're capable of, making that move and it makes sense to you, then yeah, I think that, definitely location matters.
Yeah.
And factoring that in, I guess it's at the end of the day, it's what are your needs?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what are your needs? And how realistic can we obtain those?
Yeah.
And is now the right time for you based on those needs?
Yeah. Well, it's just funny too, because a lot of people don't have the understanding between need and want.
Yes.
Right?
I had a friend that taught my 2-year-old child way back when she was first starting to talk, my wants are my needs. That was her mantra.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, thanks for that.
Not a great life lesson.
Not a great life lesson.
No. And with Port Moody, it's interesting because with that Brewers Row out there and all the, the lake or whatever, that huge water
inlet.
Yeah, it's an inlet, which is also kind of a weird story about that one. But anyways, it seems to have drawn out a bunch of the hipsters.
Yeah,
because now they got all the things. They got the outdoorsy stuff,
they got the brewery, IPAs,
all that stuff, right? And so I've noticed that sort of style. There's way more bikes out there than there used to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And also, you're talking about that area, I've found some good stuff in the Klahani.
There's
definitely.
Some good there's some good product in there. Yeah.
It's not brand new, but new enough. And it's still pretty big. And they have a bunch of amenities there that are just great. So if you can afford to get there, that I think is a really safe bet. Maybe not for a straight up just investment to rent out right away, but somebody went there, lived there for 5 years or whatnot. Yeah. It would be a good rental later on.
I agree. Sure. Yeah. Some longevity, right?
Yeah. It's a slow game.
It is. It is.
And that's the people the investors here are trying to jump in and think they're going to wheel and deal
in a year and a half,
on TV.
2 years.
It's not how this works.
No, definitely not. Not here, anyways. Maybe in the States, in those small towns, possibly.
Well, I think that's the difference is that in those towns, the home is worth more than the land.
Yes.
Here it's the other way around.
Exactly.
So you got to kind of slow your roll, I guess. It's the best one there, right?
Long game.
Now, with purchasing, because we are in finally a bit of a more balanced, even towards a buyer's market currently, right? Which is what I've been touching on for most of the show. Is there any good negotiation tips? Because before the sellers were just, I want this and whatever. Do whatever I say. But now they got to negotiate. Are there any good tips for somebody purchasing to use for a negotiation other than just price? Because obviously if you pay the asking, they'll take it.
100%. So, we're talking condos. Condos are kind of the slowest market right now. A lot of them are sitting empty.
Yeah.
So if you can come in with quick dates, that'd
be good.
That's a really, really good negotiating tool, right? Sellers are paying carrying costs, right? And so the quicker that they can get this deal done and dusted, the better for them in the long run. So definitely I pay a lot of attention to that type of thing in the negotiation process these days. What else? Definitely dates.
Yeah, it is funny, the dates, and a lot of people forget about that part. Everything's negotiable in the contract. Price, dates, clauses, all these things. Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people forget that the dates are quite important, because if you can save a month worth of strata fees and taxes and mortgage, that's attractive.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Absolutely attractive.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, people if they're moving from a rental to that, maybe moving in the middle of the week, moving in the middle of the month probably be helpful because of saving that. Right. So, I think dates is a really good one that people overlook, right?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So, Yeah, you had mentioned as well that you started, what was it, 5 years ago?
About 4 years ago.
Yeah. So you've been around the block a few times now.
A little bit.
If there was a piece of advice that you could have given to your younger self in the industry, what would it be? What have you learned?
What have you learned? Get used to rejection.
Okay.
You know what? There are a lot of ups and a lot of downs in this industry, and a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and sometimes it can be really lonely.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason I enjoy working on a team. You know, we can celebrate our highs together. We can celebrate our lows together. You know, I remember getting one listing in particular, and it was a luxury product, and we had worked about 6 months to get it. And, you know, when we got that, and keep in mind, I'm pretty new, right? And so, you know, getting a $2.5 million listing was pretty damn exciting.
Deal, yeah, fair enough.
And after, you know, we met in the office and we got everything signed, and the people left, and all three of us were hugging each other and jumping around, and, you know, like that was, you could celebrate that together, right? So yeah, I think it's just it's not an easy business. I think people think that it's really easy. I think that we, you know, they think that we take people to a house, we write an offer, and it's done and dusted.
Yeah.
I have people that, you know, I just closed a deal with somebody I've been working with for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like it's just snap and it's done, and we line our bank accounts full of money.
Yeah, even before all the cuts.
Yeah, right? Before paying this, exactly. So yeah, I guess the advice I would tell myself is, you know, the highs are high and the lows are low.
Yeah. So
try to coast in the middle somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wicked. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show and answering all the questions and whatnot. If someone's trying to find you to go find a place in Chilliwack or
ideally closer. I don't really want to drive out there often, but
how do they find you?
I've got my Facebook page, which is Liz Murphy Realtor. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they can give me a call, or they can email me at liz@zadagroup.ca.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll have all of this down in the description below, so that they don't have to just keep on repeating.
That's fantastic.
Was that again? So yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. It's something completely out of my realm. When you called, part of me wanted to say no, and I was like, why would I say no to that? So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Wicked. And if you've been listening this long, thank you very much. We really appreciate you tuning in to Bamboo, Vancouver's property management and investment podcast.